The Sydney skyline glittered like a crown under the night sky as the guests of the Aurora Financial Gala stepped out of luxury cars onto the marble entrance of the Royal Botanical Pavilion. Billionaires, politicians, and Australia's most influential families gathered for a night of champagne, charity, and quiet displays of wealth. Inside, chandeliers reflected across crystal glasses and designer gowns. Soft jazz floated through the air, laughter, deals, power. And in the center of it all stood Nathan Blackwell, CEO of Blackwell Capital and one of the most admired businessmen in Australia. Tall, perfectly groomed, with the kind of magnetic presence that made people naturally move toward him. Investors trusted him. Boards depended on him. The media worshipped him. His pregnant wife, Emily Hartman Blackwell, moved gracefully through the crowd beside him, her hand resting gently over her belly. She was 6 months along, glowing, elegant, wearing a fitted ivory dress that made her look like the embodiment of calm and dignity. People adored her, and everyone said the same thing. Emily and Nathan, the perfect couple, the power marriage. But perfection has a price, and Emily would soon discover she was the only one paying it. The first crack. Emily excused herself to get a glass of sparkling water, smiling as people congratulated her on the baby. She loved these small moments, tiny reminders that happiness still existed. But then she saw it. Nathan across the room, standing with Ava Sinclair, his new head of PR. Ava was young, ambitious, and stunning in a red silk gown that caught the light every time she moved. She stood too close to Nathan, close enough for intimacy, not professionalism. She touched his arm while speaking. Her eyes lingered on him in a way that made Emily's stomach twist with a sudden coldness. Nathan wasn't pulling away. He wasn't uncomfortable. He wasn't even trying to hide it. Emily forced herself to look away. Her heart thudded painfully in her chest. Maybe it meant nothing. Maybe she was overthinking. She didn't want to be paranoid. She didn't want to be the insecure wife. But then, just as she turned, she heard it. A whisper, barely audible, 2 women passing behind her. That's her, the pregnant wife. If she knew what was going on between Nathan and Ava, poor thing. Emily froze. Her breath caught, her skin prickled, her heartbeat hammered violently. She turned slowly and saw Nathan lean in closer to Ava, close enough that their foreheads nearly touched. Emily's hands trembled so hard she almost dropped her glass. The shattering moment. Emily tried to walk toward them, but her chest tightened. Her mind spun. She needed air, space, something to hold on to. She stepped out of the ballroom and onto the quiet terrace overlooking the harbour. She inhaled deeply, putting a hand on her belly. "It's okay, sweetheart," she whispered to the baby. "Mummy's okay, I'm just tired." But exhaustion wasn't the truth. It was heartbreak, it was fear. It was the sickening realization that something was horribly wrong. Moments later, voices drifted from the other side of the terrace wall. Nathan's voice, and another, soft, feminine, Ava. Emily's blood ran cold. She took one step closer. "You need to be patient," Nathan was saying. "Emily can't handle stress right now." Ava's voice came next, sharp and possessive. "You told me you'd leave her after the baby is born, but you keep delaying it." Emily clapped a hand over her mouth to keep from crying out. Ava continued in a whisper dripping with venom. "She's just holding you back. You belong with me, Nathan, not her." And Nathan said nothing. No denial, no protest, no loyalty. His silence was the loudest betrayal of all. Emily felt her knees weaken, her vision blurred, her breath shattered. She leaned against the stone column, trying not to collapse. Her husband, the man she trusted, the father of her unborn child, was planning to leave her after giving birth. She wasn't a partner, she wasn't loved. She was a placeholder, a temporary inconvenience. A womb. The fall. When Nathan and Ava stepped back inside, Emily stayed frozen in place, tears streaming down her cheeks, her hand gripping her stomach as if trying to protect her child from the heartbreak that tore her apart. She didn't scream, didn't confront them, didn't run. She just broke quietly. The kind of breaking that changes a woman forever. Emily wiped her tears with shaking hands and whispered to her baby, "I won't let him hurt us, I swear to you, I won't." She walked back into the ballroom with a steady, icy calm. Tonight, everything had changed. Tonight, the truth revealed itself. Tonight, Emily realized she wasn't just betrayed, she was pregnant and betrayed. And soon, Australia would learn the cost of underestimating a woman with nothing left to lose. Emily didn't remember leaving the gala, didn't remember the cameras flashing or the polite goodbyes, didn't remember Nathan placing a careful hand on her back as if nothing had happened when she knew everything. Her mind was a fog of betrayal, anger, disbelief, and heartbreak so sharp it made her physically tremble. By the time she reached their Harbour View penthouse, she felt something inside her shift. This wasn't the kind of pain that faded with time. This was the kind that transformed, the kind that forced a woman to choose who she would become next. Emily wasn't weak, she wasn't naive, she wasn't disposable. And she wasn't going to let Ava Sinclair destroy her life, not without consequence. The phone call that changed everything. At 2:17 a.m., long after Nathan had fallen asleep in the guest room claiming he was exhausted from the gala, Emily walked barefoot into the living room and sat on the sofa, her hands shaking. She stared at her phone for almost a full minute before tapping on the one contact she never thought she'd need. Dad. The call barely rang once. "Emily?" His voice was sharp, awake instantly. "What's happened?" Her throat tightened. "Dad, Nathan cheated." Silence, a dangerous silence. The kind of silence that meant action, not comfort, was coming. "Where are you?" he asked. "At home." "I'm coming." "Dad, no, you don't need to." "I said," he repeated firmly, "I'm coming." The call ended. Emily leaned back, breathing shakily. Her father wasn't just any man. He was Richard Hartman, owner of Hartman Logistics, a transport empire stretching from Perth to Melbourne. A man respected by politicians, feared by competitors, and trusted by entire industries. He was the last person Nathan should have crossed. And now, whether he knew it or not, Nathan had started a war he couldn't win. Sydney, Nathan's world remains perfect. At breakfast, Nathan entered the kitchen wearing the same perfect suit and the same perfect smile that had fooled Emily for years. "Morning, love," he said, kissing her cheek lightly. "Did you sleep all right?" Emily stared at him. He didn't know she'd listened. He didn't know she knew. He didn't know the world he built on lies was already beginning to crack. She forced a small smile. "Yes." Nathan poured himself a coffee. "We should talk about the baby shower this weekend. Ava's helping plan it." Her grip tightened around her glass. Ava, planning her baby shower. The audacity, the cruelty, the deliberate humiliation. Emily took a slow breath. "Of course," she said softly, "whatever you think is best." Nathan smiled, pleased she wasn't making trouble. He still believed she was blind, weak, docile. That would be his downfall. The arrival of a storm. At 10:42 a.m., the lift doors opened with a soft chime. Nathan was in his office downstairs when he heard Emily gasp. He walked upstairs and froze. Standing in the center of their penthouse living room, wearing a charcoal suit and a deadly expression, was Richard Hartman. Nathan felt the blood drain from his face. Mr. Hartman," he stammered, "I didn't know you were—" "You never do," Richard said coldly. Emily hurried to her father, and he pulled her into a tight, protective embrace. "What's going on?" Nathan asked, forcing a shaky laugh. "Is everything all right?" Richard slowly turned to face him. "No," he said, "it isn't." Nathan glanced at Emily, who said nothing. Her silence spoke louder than any accusation. Richard stepped forward, one step, then another. Nathan instinctively backed up. "Did you really think you could humiliate my daughter while she's carrying your child?" Richard asked quietly. Nathan's chest tightened. I don't know what she told you, but—" "Lies," Richard cut in. "You're good at them." Emily's eyes filled with tears, not from sadness but from relief. Her father believed her. He always had. Nathan lifted his hands. "Please, this is a misunderstanding." Richard leaned in, his voice low and lethal. "The only misunderstanding is you believing you could betray Emily and remain untouched." Nathan's throat closed. Emily watched, breath trembling, as her father continued. "You will not speak to her unless asked. You will not stress her. You will not manipulate her. You will not control her." He paused. "And if you so much as raise your voice, your entire company will feel it." Nathan swallowed hard. Richard Hartman wasn't bluffing. He never bluffed. A warning and a promise. Richard turned back to his daughter. "You're coming with me," he said gently. "Pack a bag." Emily hesitated. I don't know if I'm ready." "You don't have to be ready," he murmured. "You just have to be safe." She nodded slowly. Nathan stepped forward, desperate. "Emily, please, we should talk about this." Richard stepped between them like a wall. "Talk?" Richard repeated. You should have thought of that before touching another woman. Nathan flinched. Emily wiped her cheeks and whispered, "I need space." "Emily, I love you," Nathan said, voice cracking. She looked at him then, really looked at him, and something inside her snapped into place. "You don't love me," she said softly. "You love control." Nathan reached out for her, but she stepped back. That tiny movement shattered him. Richard glared. "This conversation is over." Emily packed her things. Richard held the door open. Nathan stood frozen, helpless, watching everything slip away. As she left, Emily whispered to her baby, "We're going to be okay." The lift doors closed. Nathan remained alone. And the first piece of his perfect world fell away. The doors of the private lift slid shut with a soft metallic sigh, leaving Nathan standing alone in the center of the penthouse he once called untouchable. The silence was suffocating. It pressed against his ribs, filled his lungs, and slowly began to crush him. Emily was gone. Richard had intervened, and something inside Nathan, something he never thought could happen, began to unravel. He didn't even realize he was shaking until his coffee cup slipped from his hand and shattered across the marble floor. For the first time in his life, the great Nathan Blackwell felt fear. Real, immobilizing fear. Richard's safe house in Mosman. Emily had only been to her father's Mosman property once. A quiet, multi-level sandstone residence overlooking the water, surrounded by eucalyptus trees and hidden from the road. It wasn't the kind of mansion that shouted wealth. It whispered it. A quiet, refined prestige built on legacy rather than flash. When they arrived, Richard didn't overwhelm her with questions. He didn't push, he didn't scold. He simply placed a gentle hand on her shoulder and said, "Rest, my girl, everything else can wait." And for the first time since the gala, Emily allowed herself to breathe. Her body sagged into the soft leather sofa. Her father covered her with a thick throw blanket, the same one she used to curl up in as a teenager when heartbreak first taught her what pain was. Only now the stakes were infinitely higher. She placed a hand over her belly and whispered, "You're safe, I promise." Nathan's damage control. 2 hours after Emily left, Nathan finally found the courage to pick up his phone. His first call was to Ava. She didn't answer. His second call, again, nothing. His third rang to voicemail. He sent a text. "Call me now, urgent." Nothing. A wave of ice washed through him. Was she avoiding him? Was she angry? Did she regret the conversation Emily overheard? Nathan ran a hand through his hair and paced the length of the penthouse. He felt like he was losing grip of every thread he used to hold his life together. And then another call. But not from Ava. From his CFO. He answered immediately. "Michael, what's going on?" "Nathan," Michael's voice was hesitant, almost uncomfortable. "I'm not sure how to say this, but We've been contacted by the Sydney Harbour Authority's legal team. Nathan froze. What? Why? They're requesting documents regarding the South Point acquisition. They said it's part of a preliminary inquiry. For a full 5 seconds, Nathan couldn't breathe. The South Point acquisition was one of his most aggressive expansion moves, and one of his most legally fragile. "Why now?" he whispered. Michael answered softly. "I don't know, mate, but it feels targeted." Nathan's blood turned to concrete. Richard. It had to be Richard. He wasn't wasting a single second. Emily begins to see the truth. After a long nap, Emily woke to the smell of chamomile tea drifting through the room. Her father sat nearby with his reading glasses perched low on his nose, working quietly on his laptop. "Dad?" she whispered. He looked up immediately, concern softening his features. "How's the baby?" She exhaled, kicking, maybe picking up on my stress. "Then it's a good thing you're here." Emily sipped her tea, her hands trembling slightly. "Did I overreact?" she finally asked. Maybe I should have given Nathan a chance to explain. Richard leaned forward. "When a man plans to leave you after you deliver his child, it isn't a misunderstanding. It's a decision, one made behind your back." Her eyes filled with tears again. "He doesn't even want this baby," she whispered. Richard stood and placed both hands on her shoulders. "Emily, listen to me. You have been carrying this marriage alone, and Nathan has been pretending to love you while building an exit strategy." She swallowed hard. Hearing it from someone else made it real. "He doesn't deserve you," Richard said gently, "or this child." Emily closed her eyes and let the truth settle in her bones. For the first time, she felt a small spark of something she hadn't felt since the night of the gala. Strength, determination, quiet rage. Something in her had awakened. Ava makes her move. At 5:26 p.m., Ava finally called Nathan back. He answered on the first ring. "Ava, where have you been?" Her voice was cold, sharper than he'd heard before. "Nathan, what did you tell your wife?" "What? Nothing. I didn't say anything. She overheard us." Ava exhaled heavily. "This is too much drama. I don't want my name dragged into this." "What are you talking about? You said you wanted us to be together." "That was before her father came after me." Nathan's heart stopped. "What?" "I got a call today," Ava said quietly. "Someone from a board I applied to. They told me I'm being flagged for ethical concerns. I'm being blacklisted, Nathan." He felt sick. "Emily's father." Ava didn't answer. I can fix this," Nathan said desperately. "Just stay with me." Ava laughed softly. "You fix this? Nathan, you can't even keep your own marriage together." Everything inside him cracked. "Ava, please." "I'm sorry, Nathan," she cut in, all softness gone. "This isn't worth my career." The line went dead. Nathan sank onto the sofa, shaking uncontrollably. He had lost Emily. He had lost Ava. He was losing his business, his reputation, his control. Everything he valued. And for the first time in his life, he realized he had no one to blame but himself. Emily finds something she wasn't supposed to see. While her father was resting, Emily wandered into the guest room where she'd placed her small overnight bag. Her phone buzzed with notifications, voicemails, texts, messages from friends wondering where she'd gone. She set it aside. But while searching for a charger, she found something tucked into the pocket of her old handbag. A printed receipt. From a jewelry store in Melbourne, bought 3 weeks ago. The item listed: 18K white gold diamond necklace, infinity heart, with a handwritten note. For Ava. Emily stared at it. Her pulse roared in her ears, her stomach twisted. Her baby kicked hard inside her as if reacting to her sudden burst of adrenaline. Her breath trembled as she whispered, "He bought her jewelry while I was in hospital for dehydration." Her hands curled into fists. This wasn't betrayal, this was cruelty, calculated cruelty. Emily folded the receipt slowly, her expression shifting from heartbreak to something much darker. Resolve. She just didn't know yet. This simple piece of paper would become the first weapon in her revenge. Emily sat on the edge of the bed, the jewelry receipt clenched in her trembling fingers. The weight of the discovery pressed against her chest like a stone, but beneath the pain, beneath the heartbreak, something new began to emerge. Clarity, sharp, cold clarity. Nathan's betrayal wasn't emotional weakness. It wasn't a moment of temptation. It wasn't a man losing himself. It was deliberate, thought out, repeated, calculated, cruel. A man who bought jewelry for his mistress, while his pregnant wife was in hospital, wasn't confused. He was committed to the lie. Emily wiped her cheeks slowly. "I'm done crying for you," she whispered. For the first time since she caught them, she felt something that surprised her. Relief. Not because she wanted the marriage to end, but because now she knew the truth. Now she had nothing left to protect, nothing left to excuse, nothing left to hide. And that made her dangerous. Richard makes his first move. In the living room, Richard sat with a dark espresso and 3 phones in front of him. Not 1, but 3. Each tied to different divisions of the Hartman Empire, a symbol of a man who built power from the ground up. When Emily entered silently, he looked up with the kind of expression only a father can give, a mixture of concern, calculation, and cold anger. "Sit with me," he said. She obeyed, folding her hands carefully over her belly. "What did you find?" he asked calmly, without judgment. Emily handed him the receipt. Richard scanned it once, his jaw tightened. "When were you in hospital?" he asked softly. 3 weeks ago, Emily whispered. Severe dehydration. You remember I was alone? Nathan was in Melbourne for a conference. Richard closed his eyes. He knew then, this wasn't an affair, it was a double life. And he wasn't going to let it continue. Without saying a word, Richard picked up one of his phones and called someone named Coleman. A deep voice answered. Sir, I need the complete background profile of a woman named Ava Sinclair, age approximately 28, works in PR, quickly. Yes, sir. Richard ended the call with the calm precision of a man accustomed to commanding an empire. Emily watched him. Dad, what are you doing? What I should have done sooner, he replied, protecting you. Nathan faces his board. At Blackwell Capital's headquarters overlooking Sydney Harbour, Nathan walked into the boardroom with the confidence of a man who used to own the space, but no longer believed it. The board members murmured among themselves. Some avoided his gaze. Some looked almost disappointed. Michael, the CFO, sat at the far end of the table, eyes filled with concern. Nathan cleared his throat. Before we begin, I want to address the rumors surrounding the South Point acquisition. One of the older board members cut him off. These aren't rumors, Nathan. We received a notice of inquiry this morning. Legal wants an immediate review. Nathan swallowed hard. That must be a coincidence. It isn't, another board member snapped. Someone with influence triggered this. Nathan's pulse spiked. Richard, it had to be. He forced a shallow breath. We'll cooperate fully, there's nothing to hide. But the way they exchanged glances told him everything. They no longer trusted him. His authority was compromised, his leadership was crumbling. And he could feel it. The collapse was just beginning. Ava's uncovered secret. Later that afternoon at the Marsman house, Richard received a message from Coleman. He opened it slowly, calmly. A minute later, he set his phone down with a thoughtful expression. Emily, he said, you'll want to hear this. She looked up from the sofa, a cup of tea warming her hands. Richard continued, voice steady but sharp. Your husband's mistress has a record. Emily blinked. A record? Richard nodded. 2 counts of workplace misconduct, one for forging a colleague's signature, another for leaking confidential information in exchange for compensation. Emily's breath hitched. She blackmails people, Em, Richard said quietly. It's her pattern. She finds powerful men, gets close, then uses what she knows against them. Emily felt sick. So Nathan wasn't just betraying me, she whispered. He was exposing the baby and his company into someone dangerous. Richard placed a hand gently on her shoulder. He was putting you both at risk. Emily's eyes filled, but not with sadness. With fury. The first strike. Richard made one more call, a short one, clear, direct, and devastating. And within 2 hours, something happened that Nathan never expected. Ava Sinclair received an email from her agency. Immediate termination. All references revoked. Portfolio under review. Her entire professional image gone. And she knew exactly who was behind it. But she underestimated one thing. Richard Hartman wasn't cleaning up his daughter's marriage. He was burning down the threat. Nathan's panic deepens. At 9:14 p.m., Nathan's phone buzzed. Ava. His heart jumped. Maybe she was reconsidering. Maybe she wanted him back. Maybe the world wasn't falling apart as quickly as he feared. He answered quickly. Ava, thank God, I've been trying to... You ruined my career, she hissed. What? No. Don't lie to me. Someone with influence blacklisted me today. Someone powerful, someone connected. Nathan felt a cold sweat forming across his forehead. Ava, listen. Emily's father is... Oh, I know who her father is, she snapped. And I know you're the reason he's coming after me. Ava, I swear... I'm done with you, Nathan. The line went dead. Nathan dropped his phone. It bounced across the hardwood floor, the sound echoing through the empty penthouse like a gunshot. He sank to his knees, gripping his hair. He had lost everything, everything. And he hadn't even realized yet. This was only the beginning. Richard hadn't truly started. Emily's awakening. Back in Mossman, Emily stood by the balcony staring out at the quiet water. The moonlight danced across the surface, calm and gentle, the opposite of the storm building inside her. She placed a hand on her belly. Do you feel that? She whispered softly. Mummy's getting stronger. She wasn't the fragile woman who walked out of the gala. She wasn't the broken wife who overheard betrayal on a terrace. She was changing, becoming someone new, someone determined, someone who would protect her child at all costs. Behind her, Richard approached quietly. You don't have to fight this battle alone, he said. Emily turned, her expression steady and resolute. I know, she whispered, but I'm going to fight it anyway. Richard smiled gently. There's the Hartman blood. Emily exhaled deeply, her voice firm. I'm ready to bring him down. And for the first time since her world collapsed, she meant every word. Sydney woke beneath a thin layer of coastal fog, the kind that softened the skyline but never hid the truth underneath. For Nathan, however, the morning brought no softness, only an encroaching dread that clung to him like humidity before a storm. He sat alone on the edge of the bed in the penthouse he once believed symbolized power, wealth, and control. Now, every corner of the room felt hostile. Every window showed him a city he was rapidly losing his hold over. He hadn't eaten. He hadn't slept. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. And when his phone vibrated, a sharp pulse of fear shot through him. He stared at the screen. Blackwell Capital. Urgent board meeting, 1 p.m. Mandatory attendance. His chest tightened. He knew what this meant. They were turning on him. Mosman, Emily sees the real cost of betrayal. At Richard's home, Emily awoke slowly, her hand instinctively resting on her belly. The baby kicked softly, a reminder she was no longer alone, even when the world collapsed around her. She took a deep breath, grounded and clear. When she entered the kitchen, Richard was already there, dressed in a crisp shirt, reading financial reports with the intensity of a man who never lost a battle he chose to fight. He looked up as soon as he saw her. "Morning, my girl. How are you feeling?" Emily poured herself a glass of cold water. "Stronger," she said simply. Richard nodded once, proud but cautious. He didn't want to push her too fast. "There's something we need to discuss," he said, sliding a folder across the marble island. Emily hesitated before opening it. Inside was a compilation of documents, financial statements, emails, receipts, travel logs. Everything relating to Nathan's movements over the last 6 months. Emily frowned. Where did this come from? "Private investigators," Richard said calmly. "Discreet ones." Her pulse quickened. "Dad, I don't know if I'm ready to see this." Richard placed a gentle hand over hers. "You deserve the truth, and the truth will set you free." After a long moment, she opened the first page, and her entire world lurched. The double life revealed. The first document was a hotel invoice, 5-star Gold Coast, room service for 2. 2 names, 2 guests, Nathan and Ava. Emily's throat tightened. She turned the page. A bank statement, thousands spent on PR consulting trips, all aligning perfectly with Ava's travel schedule. She kept reading. Her breath trembled more with each document. Another page, a private dinner at Crown Towers, Melbourne, for $500 bill. Nathan signed it, and an added note, "Happy anniversary." Emily's hands shook violently. Anniversary? They didn't have an anniversary then. He wasn't celebrating her. He was celebrating Ava. Her stomach twisted. Her heart felt like it was being peeled open. And then she reached the final document. A printed email draft Nathan had saved on his work computer, one that IT had retrieved. Emily's eyes scanned it. Her breath stopped. He was writing a message to his lawyer. "Begin drafting a separation agreement. I want full custody rights discussed. Emily is emotional and unstable during pregnancy." Her vision blurred, her breath stalled, her body went cold. Nathan wasn't just cheating. He was preparing to take her child. Richard watched the devastation cross her face and felt a dark, controlled fury rise inside him. "Emily," he said softly, "this man never intended to stay with you. He was planning to remove you from his life the moment the baby was born." Emily closed the folder slowly. But something was different now. She wasn't shaking. She wasn't sobbing. Her expression was steady, sharp, focused. "He wants to take my baby," she whispered. Richard rested his hand on her back. "And that," he said firmly, "is something I will never allow." At Blackwell Capital, the ambush. Nathan walked into the boardroom with the confidence of a man who had run this space for years, but the moment he saw the board members' expressions, the confidence shattered. Cold, closed, judgmental. Michael, the CFO, wouldn't meet his eyes. "What's happening?" Nathan demanded. The chairman folded his hands. "We've conducted an internal review." "Of what?" Nathan snapped. "Your spending, your travel allocations, your discretionary accounts." Nathan felt sweat forming on his neck. "It's nothing unusual," he insisted. "Standard executive expenses." "Don't lie, Nathan," the chairman interrupted coldly. "You used company funds for personal trips, luxury hotel stays, gifts, meals, a pattern of financial misconduct." Nathan's pulse skyrocketed. This was Richard, Richard's investigators, Richard's influence, Richard's reach. "It's not what you think," Nathan said quickly. "These weren't personal—" "We have proof they were," Michael said quietly. Nathan turned to him, stunned. "Michael, you believe this?" Michael exhaled heavily. "I don't want to, but the evidence is overwhelming." Nathan's voice cracked. "Do you even know what I'm going through? Emily left me. Her father is destroying my life. I need time." "This isn't personal," the chairman said flatly. "It's business. You've put this company at risk." He slid a stack of documents across the table. "We're voting on whether to suspend you pending investigation." Nathan froze. "No," he whispered. "No, you can't do this." But the truth was sinking in. They could. And they would. He had spent years building an empire, and now it was slipping through his fingers. All because of Ava. All because of his ego. All because he lied. And because he underestimated Emily and her father. Emily finds her true power. At Mosman, Emily sat quietly on the balcony as the afternoon sun warmed her skin. The folder lay beside her, closed but vibrating with truth. Her father joined her, placing a coffee on the table. "You've seen everything," he said gently. "Now tell me, what do you want to do?" Emily looked out over the water. For a long time she didn't speak. And then, finally, "I want to protect my baby." Richard nodded. "Of course." She exhaled slowly. "And I want Nathan to understand what it feels like, to lose everything he tried to take from me." Her voice wasn't emotional. It was calm, controlled, chilling. Richard studied her face and saw it. The transformation. The woman Nathan underestimated was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, colder, smarter. Hartman blood and a mother. Emily turned to her father. "Help me do this the right way," she said. "Legally, strategically, thoroughly." A slow, proud smile crossed Richard's face. "My girl," he murmured, "I've been waiting for you to ask." Nathan had always believed he was untouchable. Untouchable in business, untouchable socially, untouchable financially. But that illusion shattered the moment he opened his banking app. At first he thought it was a glitch, a connection error, a momentary fault on the bank's end. He refreshed the page and refreshed again. But nothing changed. All accounts, personal, savings, executive discretionary, investment portfolios, trading accounts, short-term liquidity lines, frozen. A thick wave of panic surged through him. What the hell? He clicked on the notification banner. Due to an ongoing investigation, your accounts have been temporarily restricted. Please contact your financial institution for further details. Investigation, investigation. Nathan's heart slammed violently against his ribs. This wasn't Richard. Richard was powerful, but he wasn't reckless. He wouldn't freeze accounts without a legal procedure. So who? Nathan's skin crawled. Was this the board? ASIC, a government inquiry? Or worse, was Ava retaliating? He pressed both hands to his temples. He was losing everything, piece by piece, day by day. His marriage, his mistress, his reputation, his authority, and now his access to money. Money was Nathan's oxygen, his identity, his armor. Without it, he wasn't Nathan Blackwell. He was just a terrified man in a collapsing penthouse watching his empire turn to dust. Marsman, the lawyer, arrives. Emily looked up from the balcony when a dark sedan pulled up the driveway. A tall man in an expensive charcoal suit stepped out, carrying a sleek black briefcase. Richard opened the door before the man even reached it. "Good to see you," Richard said, shaking his hand. "Come in." The man smiled politely, happy to assist Mr. Hartman. Emily stood, smoothing her dress as Richard led the man into the living room. "Emily," Richard said gently, "this is Harrison Drake, one of the most respected family lawyers in Sydney." Harrison gave her a warm, respectful nod. "It's an honor. Your father spoke highly of you." Emily forced a small smile. "I wish we were meeting under better circumstances." "Unfortunately," Harrison said, taking a seat, "circumstances like these reveal the true character of the people involved." Emily sat across from him. "I want to protect my baby, that's all that matters." Harrison's expression softened. "And you will. I won't let anyone take that child from you." Gently, "This is Harrison Drake, one of the most respected family lawyers in Sydney." Harrison gave her a warm, respectful nod. "It's an honor. Your father spoke highly of you." Emily forced a small smile. "I wish we were meeting under better circumstances." "Unfortunately," Harrison said, taking a seat, "circumstances like these reveal the true character of the people involved." Emily sat across from him. "I want to protect my baby, that's all that matters." Harrison's expression softened. "And you will. I won't let anyone take that child from you." The reassurance hit her hard, so hard that tears stung the back of her eyes, but she blinked them away. She needed to be strong. Richard placed a hand on her back. "Harrison's reviewed everything. He's prepared for any outcome." Emily breathed out. "What's the first step?" Harrison opened his briefcase and placed a stack of documents on the table. "We filed for a temporary protection order," he said. "Not because Nathan is violent, but because he has shown a pattern of emotional instability and unethical decision-making." Emily's breath caught. "That will hold up in court." "With the documentation you now possess," Harrison said. "Yes, easily." Emily nodded slowly. "And after that?" "Then," Harrison said calmly, "we begin the custody strategy." Her stomach twisted. Custody. The very word felt like a battlefield. The custody revelation. Harrison slid a folder toward her. "You need to see this as well." Emily opened it. Inside was a printed transcript, an email draft Nathan had written to his lawyer. Her heart dropped. It was worse than she realized. "I want Emily evaluated for maternal fitness after birth. Ensure we can argue instability. Prepare grounds for primary custody." The room spun. Harrison spoke gently. "He wasn't just preparing to leave you, he was planning to undermine you as a mother." Emily's voice cracked. "He wanted to take my baby." "Yes," Harrison confirmed, "and I intend to make sure he never gets the chance." Richard placed a steady hand over hers. "You're safe, your baby is safe." Emily nodded, breathing shakily. No more tears, no more begging, no more excuses. "Let's start," she whispered. Nathan loses control. At the same time, across the city, Nathan stormed into Blackwell Capital like a man ready to wage war. He slammed open the door to Michael's office. "Did you freeze my accounts?" Michael's head shot up, stunned. "What? No, I don't have that kind of authority." "Then who?" Nathan demanded. Michael hesitated. And that hesitation felt like a blade sliding under Nathan's ribs. "Michael," Nathan said slowly, "tell me, right now." Michael exhaled, rubbing his temples. "It's the legal department. They flagged your activity. Large transactions, unexplained spending. They recommended a freeze until the investigation is complete." Nathan stumbled backward. No, you can't let them do this. I need access. I need my personal accounts." "I can't override it," Michael said quietly. "This wasn't a decision from the board. It came from external auditors." Nathan's heart dropped. "Auditors." That meant government involvement. That meant scrutiny. That meant real consequences. And worst of all, It meant this was no longer something he could control. He backed out of Michael's office, breath shallow, vision blurring. Emily, her father, the board, the auditors, they were all closing in on him. His world wasn't just cracking, it was imploding. Emily finds a new purpose. Back in Mosman, Emily sat with Harrison and Richard as the last of the initial paperwork was signed. Once we submit this, Harrison said, Nathan will be officially notified. He may try to contact you, but legally he cannot pressure you or attempt manipulation. Emily nodded slowly. Good, she said, her voice steady, firm, resolved. When do we file? Harrison smiled faintly. Tonight. Emily exhaled, leaning back into the chair. She felt exhausted, but lighter, stronger. This wasn't the life she imagined, not the marriage she planned, not the family she dreamed of. But she was no longer powerless. She placed a hand on her belly and whispered, It's okay, little one. Mummy's fighting for you. Richard watched her with pride swelling in his chest. My girl, he said softly, I've never been more proud. Emily didn't respond. She didn't need to. Her silence said everything. She wasn't a victim anymore. The Mistress returns. At 10:14 p.m., Nathan's phone rang. Ava. He stared at the screen. His emotions were a violent storm: desperation, rage, fear, longing, humiliation. He answered. Ava, thank God, I need to talk to you. Stop calling me, she said sharply. Stop texting me. Stop dragging me into your mess. Ava, listen. My accounts have been frozen. My board is turning against me. Emily left. Her father... Not my problem, she said coldly. You lied to me. You told me you'd leave her. You told me you'd protect me. Ava, please, he begged. I need you. No, she said. You need money. You need stability. You need someone to hold your life together. That's not me. Nathan's knees nearly buckled. Ava, please don't do this. You did this to yourself, she said. And then... I hope you realize that when you lose everything... The line went dead. Nathan's whole world shattered. And then came the final blow. At 11:02 p.m., as Nathan sat on the floor of his penthouse, staring at the city he no longer controlled, his phone buzzed. A legal notification. He opened it with trembling hands. His breath stopped. Temporary protection order filed by Emily Hartman Blackwell. Effective immediately. No contact without consent. No emotional pressure. No access to medical information. No custody discussions. No influence over Emily's environment. Mandatory legal mediation. Nathan's vision blurred. No, he whispered. Emily, Emily, please. But Emily wasn't there anymore. She wasn't waiting for him. She wasn't hoping he would change. She wasn't weak. She was becoming the one thing Nathan feared most. A woman who finally understood her worth. And she was coming for justice. The notification burned on Nathan's phone like acid. Temporary protection order. Filed, approved, active immediately. He reread it 5, 6, 7 times. His hands trembled each time the words came back into focus. He wasn't allowed to contact Emily. He wasn't allowed near her. He wasn't allowed to influence her decisions, stress her, or even inquire about her pregnancy. His own unborn child. He had no legal access to the pregnancy of his own unborn child. Nathan sank down onto the cold hardwood floor, chest heaving with shallow, panicked breaths. This can't be happening. This can't be happening. But it was, and it was happening fast. Every piece of his life, the life he built, the life he flaunted, was being stripped away, thread by thread. And somewhere across Sydney, Emily slept peacefully for the first time in months. Mosman, the revelation. Emily woke to sunlight streaming softly through the curtains. The Mosman home felt safe, quiet, warm, filled with the low hum of birds outside. Nothing like the sterile penthouse she'd shared with Nathan. Richard was already up, talking quietly on the phone in his office. Emily stepped in. "Morning, Dad." He turned, his voice softening. "Morning, sweetheart. Did you sleep well?" She nodded. "Better than I expected." Richard hesitated, then held out a tablet toward her. "We found something else." Emily's heart tightened. Another document? Worse. Emily swallowed as she took the tablet. The screen displayed a series of security camera thumbnails. She tapped the first one. It opened to a video still inside Nathan's office. Nathan Ava, late at night, her sitting on his lap, his hands around her waist. Emily's stomach twisted. She swiped to the next. Then another. And another. Some showed them kissing, others showed them in compromising positions. One showed Nathan closing the blinds and then turning off the lights. Emily clenched the tablet until her knuckles whitened. "How?" she whispered. "It department," Richard said. "Your husband was careless, very careless." Emily exhaled shakily. "My marriage was a lie." Richard stepped closer. "No, he was the lie, not you." Emily nodded slowly, but the ache remained. The darker secret. Richard hesitated. "There's more." Emily looked up sharply. "More?" He opened another file on the tablet. It was an email chain between Nathan and Ava. A message in Ava's voice. "Once the baby is born, you need to push for full custody immediately. A wife going through postpartum is easy to discredit. We'll have your freedom and your reputation. The board loves you. Your father-in-law won't interfere once the child is out." Emily felt the air leave her lungs. Postpartum discredit full custody. And another response from Nathan. Agreed. Emily won't fight. She's too emotional. Once the baby is here, she'll be too overwhelmed to push back. Emily's mouth trembled. Her throat burned. Nathan didn't just betray her. He weaponized her pregnancy. He planned to use motherhood as a tool against her. Her father's voice was low, steady, controlled. So this wasn't a simple affair. This was a coordinated plan. A removal. Emily placed a hand on her stomach, her voice trembling but sharp. I will never let him near my child. Richard nodded. You won't have to. Nathan's panic strategy. Meanwhile, Nathan burst into his lawyer's office like a man running from fire. His lawyer, Matthew Reed, looked up from his desk, eyebrows raised. Nathan, I wasn't expecting... I need to overturn a protection order, Nathan snapped. Now... Matthew's face hardened. That's not how this works. Nathan slammed his fists against the desk. She took my baby from me. I have rights. So you have rights, Matthew said carefully, but Emily has evidence, a lot of it. Nathan flinched. What evidence? Matthew sighed and opened a folder. Hotel records, expense reports, emails, travel logs, screenshots, CCTV footage. Nathan's face went white. How the hell did they get that? Matthew set down the folder and looked him dead in the eye. You're not dealing with just a wife, Nathan. You're dealing with a Hartman. Nathan's mouth went dry. Matthew continued. And the worst part? The evidence is compelling enough that, if Emily wants, she could argue emotional abuse, coercion, manipulation, and endangerment. Nathan staggered back as if punched. I can't lose my child. Matthew took off his glasses. Nathan, you already lost your wife, your child. That depends on whether you make smarter choices from here forward. Avery at the bar. That same evening, at a quiet cocktail bar in Surrey Hills, Ava Sinclair drank alone. Her red lipstick smudged, her hair pinned back shakily, her designer coat draped across the chair like a trophy she no longer felt worthy of. Her phone buzzed again, another headline. PR executive Ava Sinclair linked to CEO misconduct probe. Blackwell Capital scandal deepens. Alleged mistress facing industry ban. Her life was collapsing too. And in her drunken frustration, she sent a message she would regret forever. To Nathan. A single line. If I go down, so do you. Richard's warning to Emily. Back in Mossman, Richard sat with Emily after dinner, the fire crackling softly in the background. Emily, he said, there's something you must understand. She looked up from her tea. What is it? Nathan isn't just desperate, he's dangerous. Emily's breath caught. He wouldn't hurt me. He wouldn't hurt you physically, Richard said, but legally, emotionally, professionally, he's shown he's capable of calculated cruelty. Emily looked down. Richard continued. This is the phase where men like Nathan lash out, where they fight dirty, where they try to win back control by any means necessary. Emily swallowed hard. He can't contact me. True, Richard said, but he can attack your character, he can leak stories, he can manipulate the board, he can use the media. She tightened her grip on her mug. What do I do? Richard squeezed her hand. You stay calm, you stay smart, and you stay close to me. He paused. Because tomorrow, we bring in someone else. Someone else? Emily whispered. Richard nodded. The final piece. The one man Nathan fears even more than me. Emily's heart pounded. Who? Richard leaned back, eyes narrowing with cold precision. My old partner, a man who knows Blackwell Capital inside out, and the man Nathan betrayed long before he met you. Emily's breath halted. Her father's voice dropped to a chilling whisper. Tomorrow, Emily, the real destruction begins. The next morning was unusually quiet in Mosman. Emily sat at the long oak dining table, her fingers absent-mindedly stroking the edge of her warm mug. Her father was standing by the window, hands clasped behind his back, waiting for someone. Emily watched him, her heart tightening. Dad, she whispered, are we really going this far? Richard turned, his expression softer than his voice. You're not destroying him, Emily. He destroyed himself. You're simply stopping him from taking you with him. She nodded, swallowing hard. Her father wasn't wrong, but the weight of the situation pressed heavily against her chest. And then the sound of tires on gravel. Richard straightened slightly. He's here. Emily turned toward the entrance just as the doorbell rang. A second later, Richard opened the door, and a man stepped inside. Tall, composed, expensive suit, silver hair at his temples, sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. He extended a hand to Emily. Emily Hartman, he said warmly, it's an honor. She shook his hand gently. Thank you for coming. My father said you were important. He smiled faintly. My name is Thomas Granger. Emily blinked. She knew that name. Everyone in the Australian business world knew that name. He wasn't just important. He was a former powerhouse. Co-founder of Blackwell Capital. The man Nathan betrayed. Thomas took a seat across from them, folding his hands calmly. I was in London when Richard called me, he said. I took the first flight out. Emily's eyes widened. You came that quickly? Thomas's expression hardened. When Richard Hartman tells you something is urgent, it's urgent. And when he told me it involved Nathan, he paused. Let's just say I've been waiting for the right moment to deal with that boy. Emily exchanged a look with her father. What did Nathan do to you? she asked quietly. Thomas exhaled. Nathan forced me out of my own company, he said. Years ago, manipulated the board, lied to the media, spread rumors about my mental health. I retired publicly, but privately he destroyed my career. He leaned forward slowly. He took everything from me, and now he's tried to take everything from you. Emily's throat tightened. Thomas continued. I'm not here for revenge, he gestured toward her belly. I'm here because I won't let that child grow up under Nathan's shadow. Emily felt tears threaten her eyes. For months she'd felt alone, cornered, outnumbered, powerless. Now she had a literal army behind her. Nathan's paranoia deepens. Across Sydney, Nathan sat in a half-lit hotel bar, the kind of place he used to avoid because it didn't match his image. Funny how quickly everything changed. He hadn't shaved. His suit was wrinkled. His phone battery was almost dead. His hands shook as he stirred the untouched whiskey in front of him. He kept replaying everything in his head. Emily leaving, his accounts frozen, Ava turning on him, the board's accusations, the investigation, the protection order. And now he could feel it. Someone else was involved. Someone bigger. Someone who knew how to dismantle a man without ever touching him. His paranoia spiraled. He pulled his phone out and typed, "We need to talk. I know you're behind this. Come out and face me." Except he had no one to send it to. He didn't know who the enemy was anymore. A shadow? A ghost? A name he'd forgotten? His hands shook violently. He checked his banking app again. Still frozen. He could feel his heartbeat pounding aggressively, his breath fast and sharp. He was coming undone. And then? He heard a soft ping beside him. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. He tapped it with trembling fingers. This is only the beginning. Nathan froze. His skin went cold, his breath stopped. Someone was watching him. Someone who knew exactly how to break him. He texted back, "Who is this?" No answer. He stood up abruptly, knocking over the glass. The bartender said something Nathan didn't hear. His mind raced. It was Emily. No, Richard. No, possibly someone else. Someone he had forgotten. Someone who hated him. Someone who wanted his life to crumble. Ava makes a fatal mistake. Meanwhile, in her small apartment in Surrey Hills, Ava Sinclair stared at her laptop screen with desperation. She'd been rejected from 3 jobs in a single day. Her name was now associated with scandal. She could barely get calls back. Her social media was flooded with hate. And she was angry, viciously angry. At Nathan, at Emily, at Richard, at the world. She opened a folder on her desktop labeled Insurance. Inside were screenshots Nathan had sent her over months, photos of deals, contracts, confidential documents. He'd trusted her too much. He'd shared things he shouldn't. And Ava decided she wasn't going down alone. She began uploading files anonymously to a popular gossip site. She couldn't realize, that every file she leaked was another nail in Nathan's coffin. Because those files weren't small, they weren't harmless. They were potentially criminal. And the moment she clicked send, the entire trajectory of Nathan Blackwell's life changed. He thought Emily was destroying him. He had no idea Ava just lit the real fuse. Marsman, Emily finally understands. Back at Richard's home, Thomas opened his leather briefcase and laid out several documents. "We're starting a strategic takedown," he said. "Legal, corporate, reputational, nothing reckless. Everything by the book." Emily leaned forward, listening intently. Thomas continued. "Richard has influence in logistics. I have influence with past investors and members of the Securities Commission." He slid a folder toward her. "Nathan's misconduct will come to light in a controlled, undeniable way." Emily inhaled deeply. "So what's my role?" Thomas smiled softly. "Tell your story." "My story," she whispered. "Yes, the truth. A calm, factual statement through your lawyer for the court. No rage, no accusations, just the truth." Emily nodded. Her hands fluttered slightly over her belly. "And when his empire collapses?" she asked softly. Thomas exchanged a look with Richard. "We'll make sure you and your child never pay for his mistakes again." Outside, a soft breeze rustled the trees. Inside, Emily felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Hope. The woman she once was, afraid, isolated, heartbroken, was gone. What remained was a mother, a Hartman, and a force Nathan should have never dared to betray. Sydney woke buzzing with a different kind of electricity, not the usual weekday rush, something sharper, heavier, pulsating through every corner of the city like a brewing storm. It hit the business networks first, then the tabloids, then the social feeds, then every major Australian outlet. The headlines spreading like wildfire across every screen was brutal, merciless and inescapable. Leaked documents expose Nathan Blackwell's secret dealings, affair, and corporate misconduct. And under it, inside the double life of one of Australia's most influential CEOs. Nathan's name wasn't just trending, it was imploding. Not because of Emily, not because of Richard, not even because of Thomas. But because Ava Sinclair, the mistress he traded his marriage for, had set the entire country ablaze. The media storm. In the penthouse he no longer recognized, Nathan sat hunched on the sofa, staring at his TV in horror. Newly surfaced documents suggest misuse of corporate funds. A series of intimate messages and travel receipts linked Blackwell to PR executive Ava Sinclair. Allegations of emotional coercion involving his pregnant wife. ASIC has confirmed they are aware of the material and will be reviewing it. The Blackwell Capital stock fell 18% within the first hour. Every word hit him like a body blow. He grabbed the remote and turned up the volume. The news reporter continued. Several confidential files have been leaked, including internal memos and negotiation drafts, material which could result in multiple legal consequences for Mr. Blackwell. Nathan's breath turned ragged. Jesus Christ, no. He fumbled for his phone and called Ava immediately. She declined. He called again, declined again. On the fourth attempt, she answered, her voice cold, venomous, and exhausted. What do you want, Nathan? What did you do? He demanded. What the hell did you leak? I leaked what you gave me, she said flatly. Insurance, remember? You told me to keep it safe. Not to leak it to the media. Ava scoffed. You threw me to the wolves. I'm just throwing you to the same. Nathan's chest constricted. Ava, this could ruin me. You ruined yourself, she said. Then she hung up. Nathan stared at his phone, breath shallow, visions of his empire burning playing again and again in his mind. Emily, he whispered, as if she were the only one who could save him. But she wasn't coming, and deep down he knew it. Mosman, the truth empowers Emily. Across the harbour, Emily sat with her father and Thomas in the sunlit sitting room. The news was playing softly on the television, but Emily wasn't smiling. She wasn't celebrating. She wasn't even relieved. She was still. Quiet, composed, centered. Thomas watched her thoughtfully. You're calmer than I expected. Emily nodded slowly, because none of this is mine to carry anymore. Richard placed a comforting hand over hers. That's exactly right. Emily looked at the screen again. Nathan, the man she used to trust, the man she used to pray for, the man she once believed would be a good father, now exposed, laid bare, stripped of the lies he hid behind. She didn't feel pity. She didn't feel satisfaction. She felt free. Thomas executes the first strategic blow. Thomas leaned back, crossing his legs. Now that the media storm has hit, we proceed with Phase 1. Emily blinked. There are phases? 3, Thomas said, and we're only beginning. He slid a document across the table. This is our statement to the Securities Commission. They'll receive it in the next hour. Emily scanned the first few lines. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't vindictive. It was factual, legal, precision-engineered. Every sentence placed Nathan deeper into regulatory scrutiny. Emily looked up. You wrote this? I did, Thomas said. It's how we make sure he can't talk his way out of the investigation. She swallowed. Will it ruin him? Thomas held her gaze. It will hold him accountable. That was enough. The world starts to turn against him. Back in the CBD, Blackwell Capital's sleek glass building stood like a monument to Nathan's former ego. But inside, chaos. Phones ringing non-stop, emails exploding, staff whispering in corridors, investors demanding answers, employees posting on group chats, junior associates signing up to LinkedIn job alerts. By noon, the board called an emergency meeting. Without Nathan. One board member finally said what they were all thinking. We need to remove him, effective immediately. Another added, and protect the company before it collapses under him. It was done. A unanimous vote, a final decision, a historic fall. Nathan Blackwell would be stripped of his role as CEO, the very title he believed he was born to hold, gone in a matter of minutes. The Mistress isn't done. Back in Surrey Hills, Ava sat in the dim light of her apartment, scrolling through comments about her own scandal. She was hated, mocked, exposed, her professional reputation permanently stained. But something darker pushed through the hurt. Bitterness, resentment, revenge. You thought I was disposable, she whispered at her screen. You thought I'd disappear quietly. She opened a new tab, created a burner email, attached another file, the most damaging yet, and hit send. To every major financial journalist in Australia. A slow, satisfied smile crept across her face. Let's see how long your kingdom lasts now. Nathan starts to break. At 2:43 p.m., Nathan's lawyer stormed into the hotel bar where he'd holed up. Nathan, you need to get out of here now. Nathan looked up, hollow-eyed. What's happening? You've been removed from the board. The auditors are escalating the investigation. ASIC has requested your immediate cooperation. Nathan's face drained of color. But I didn't do anything illegal. Matthew stared at him long and hard. Nathan, you did so many illegal things. Nathan's chest tightened painfully. He couldn't breathe, he couldn't think. His lawyer continued. You need to leave Sydney. Stay somewhere quiet. Stop communicating with anyone. This is spiraling. Nathan held his head in his hands. This wasn't supposed to happen. Then you shouldn't have betrayed the wrong woman, Matthew said quietly. This is the cost. Emily prepares for court. Meanwhile, Emily stood in the guest room, looking at the small stack of documents she'd gathered for her legal statement. Photos, medical notes, texts, emails, proof of emotional manipulation, proof of abandonment, proof of risk to her and the baby. She inhaled deeply. This is for you, she whispered to her child. Richard entered quietly. You ready? Emily turned to him, eyes steady. More than ready. Nathan didn't remember driving to the mediation office. He didn't remember changing his clothes. He didn't remember the phone calls or the warnings, or even the sound of his own breath shaking all night long. All he remembered was the cold, relentless fear that gripped him when he walked into the tall glass building in Circular Quay and realized Emily was already there. He froze. Emily sat beside her lawyer, Harrison, her posture straight, her hands resting calmly over her belly. She wasn't crying. She wasn't shaking. She wasn't pleading. She looked unshakable. Nathan's pulse hammered violently. "Emily," he whispered, hoping she'd meet his eyes. She didn't. Her father stood to her right, hands clasped, expression carved from stone. Harrison gestured politely toward the seat opposite them. Nathan hesitated before sinking into the chair, feeling suddenly small, powerless, like the world was folding in on him. The mediator entered, offering a professional smile. "Before we begin, I want to remind everyone that today is a non-adversarial discussion." Richard's voice cut through the room like a blade. "Let's not waste time. My daughter has already suffered enough." The mediator cleared his throat, taken aback, but nodded. Nathan finally found his voice. "Emily, please. I never meant to hurt you. I love you. I love our baby. This is all getting out of hand." Her eyes finally lifted to meet his. And in that moment, Nathan realized that something in her had died the day he betrayed her. The Emily who loved him was gone. She wasn't angry, she wasn't emotional, she wasn't broken. She was done. Her voice was soft but steady. "You tried to take my child from me." Nathan shook his head desperately. "That's not true." Harrison opened a folder and slid a printed email across the table. The email, the one Nathan drafted to his lawyer, the one discussing custody, the one questioning her maternal fitness. Nathan's stomach dropped into ice, his breath stilled. He looked up. Emily wasn't crying. She was watching him with calm, devastating clarity. "You prepared a separation before our baby was even born," she said quietly. "You planned to discredit me after childbirth. You planned to take our child away from me." Nathan swallowed hard. That was Ava pressuring me. I wasn't thinking straight." Richard leaned forward. "Ava didn't write those words, you did." Nathan's face crumpled. I didn't mean it, Emily, I swear. I was confused. Emily cut him off gently. "You weren't confused, Nathan. You were cruel." He shut his eyes. The mediator cleared his throat, his voice cautious. "Mr. Blackwell, given the documentation provided, the court will almost certainly lean towards sole custody for Ms. Hartman after birth, with supervised visitation until psychological evaluation is completed." Nathan stiffened. "Supervised visitation? I'm not a danger to my child." Harrison replied calmly. The court won't take chances, given your instability, the emotional manipulation and the ongoing investigation. Nathan's hands curled into trembling fists. He stared at Emily again. Please, don't do this to me. She inhaled softly, one hand lifting to her belly in a protective gesture. I'm not doing anything to you, she whispered. You did this to yourself. The room fell silent. Nathan felt something crack inside his chest, a painful, nauseating crumble of ego and denial. He reached across the table instinctively, as he always had when he wanted to regain control. But Richard's hand shot out faster, gripping Nathan's wrist in mid-air. Firm, strong, unbreakable. Nathan froze. Don't ever reach for my daughter again, Richard said quietly. Not now, not ever. Nathan pulled back, humiliated. The mediator continued with procedure, explaining timelines, court filing dates, emergency custody protections, psychological requirements, and financial disclosures. But Nathan heard none of it. His mind was spinning, drowning, collapsing in on itself. When it ended, Emily stood. Nathan pushed himself up too. Emily, just hear me out, please. But she was already walking away, her father's steady presence beside her, Harrison following. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Nathan saw her clearly. Not as his wife, not as the soft-hearted woman he'd manipulated, not as the one who forgave him, the one who believed in him, the one who hoped. She wasn't any of those things anymore. She was a mother, she was a Hartman, she was protected. And she was powerful. Nathan's chest tightened painfully as he whispered into the empty room, "What have I done?" Outside the building, Emily reached the pavement. The cool air brushed her skin and she paused, breathing deeply. Her father placed a hand on her back. "You were perfect," he whispered. "You were strong." Emily exhaled shakily. "I didn't think it would hurt this much." Thomas stepped out from the black car, waiting for them. "That pain," he said gently, "is the last part of letting him go." Emily nodded slowly. "I'm ready." Thomas opened the car door for her. "Good," he said, "because what happens next will destroy the last pieces of his empire." Emily placed a hand over her belly and whispered softly, "This isn't revenge, it's protection." Richard smiled. "That's why you'll win."